My name is Dara Voss. This is the story of how my home, a small farming colony called Kepler's Reach, was taken from us in a single day, and how we took it back 3 days later. I will tell it the way I remember it, in my own words, as simply as I can. Kepler's Reach was not a rich place. We were 40,000 people living on a quiet world, growing wheat under a sun that was not even our own. We had no army. We had a few small flying machines to watch our fields, and that was all. We never thought we needed more than that. We were wrong. The ships came from the dark side of our moon. They did not look like the ships in old stories. They were smooth and dark, shaped like something you would not want to meet in a quiet place. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding a cup of tea, when the sky outside turned the wrong color. Within minutes, every screen in the colony showed the same message, spoken in a calm voice that somehow made it worse. You now belong to the Tholari Directorate. Resistance will not be tolerated. Please remain calm. I did not feel calm. I felt my hands shake so hard that my cup fell and broke on the floor. My daughter, Mira, ran into the kitchen asking what was happening, and I did not have an answer for her. I only had one instinct, which was to hold her hand and not let go. The Tholari did not destroy our homes. That surprised me later, when I had time to think about it. They did not want to burn our fields or break our buildings. They wanted us to keep working, only now for them instead of for ourselves. Small devices fell from the sky like black rain and landed gently around the necks of every adult in the colony. They were collars, though nobody used that word out loud at first. We called them bands, because it felt less frightening to say. The bands did something to our bodies that I still cannot fully explain. When a Tholari voice gave a command, my legs would move before my mind agreed to it. I did not choose to kneel the first time an overseer told me to kneel. My body simply did it, the way your hand pulls away from something hot before you decide to pull it away. It was the strangest and most frightening feeling I have ever known, to watch my own body obey a stranger. I will not pretend that first day was full of secret bravery. It was not. We were frightened and confused, and many of us did exactly what we were told, because the alternative seemed impossible to imagine. I saw a neighbor of mine, a kind man everyone called Big OCI, refuse to move quickly enough during a work assignment. The Tholari did not hurt him in front of us in some dramatic way. They simply took him away, and he did not come back. Nobody spoke about it out loud after that. We understood the lesson without needing to hear it twice. That night, lying awake in a small room with Mira asleep beside me, I made a decision that I did not fully understand yet. I decided that I would pay attention. Not fight. Not yet. Not even plan anything specific. Just watch. Count things. Notice patterns. It felt like such a small thing to do, almost useless, but it was the only thing that felt within my power. So the next morning, when I was sent to work in the grain processing building, sorting food that used to feed my own neighbors and now fed the Tholari soldiers instead, I started counting. I counted how many guards walked past the building each hour. I counted how long it took for a supply truck to travel from the gate to the storage yard. I noticed that one particular tower, tall and thin, controlled the signal that kept all of our bands working properly. I noticed that this tower's signal seemed to pause and reset itself for a few seconds every so often, like a person taking a quick breath. I did not know why I was noticing these things. I only knew that noticing felt better than despair. And despair was everywhere that first day, thick as fog. I was not the only one paying attention. I began to notice small signs in other people too. Old Marta, who used to teach at the little school before the invasion, would mutter numbers to herself while walking past the guard posts. At first I thought grief had confused her mind. Later I understood she was counting guards, the same way I was counting trucks. Children who used to play near the edge of town were now playing a strange game that took them, again and again, along the same path near the signal tower, mapping out which spots the guards could and could not see clearly. Nobody had organized any of this. Nobody had called a secret meeting or passed around a plan. It was as if something old and quiet inside all of us had woken up at the same time, the same instinct that has always guided people who refuse, deep down, to accept being owned by someone else. I do not think this instinct is unique to humans, but I do believe we have practiced it for a very long time, through many hard chapters of our own history, and something in that practice remained with us even now. The second day brought a strange kind of hope, though I would not have called it hope out loud. The Tholari had a system for translating our language, but their machines were built to catch simple words, direct commands, and clear meanings. They were not built to catch the way humans sometimes say one thing and mean another. I learned this by accident, standing in a line for rations. Osei's widow, a quiet woman named Amara, stood beside me and said, in a calm and ordinary voice, "It's a beautiful day to go fishing. There was no lake nearby. There was no fishing anywhere on our colony." The overseer, standing a few steps away, his translation device blinking calmly on his shoulder, showed no reaction at all. To him, it was nothing but background noise. To me, it was a signal. I did not know exactly what it meant, not completely, but I understood that a plan was moving, quietly, underneath everything we said out loud. I understood, somehow, that it meant tonight, or soon, or be ready. I want to be honest and say that I felt afraid, more afraid than I had felt since the ships first arrived. It is one thing to be a frightened person hoping quietly for something to change. It is another thing entirely, to realize you might be asked to do something that could change it. That night, I lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, turning over everything I had noticed about the signal tower, the short pause in its signal, the 3 guards who left their post for exactly the same few minutes every night to check the eastern gate. I did not decide to be brave. I decided, simply, that I could not sit still and do nothing while holding all of that knowledge in my head. The third day began like any other, with the same gray light and the same tired lines of people walking to their assigned work. But underneath the surface, something had shifted. I could feel it in the way people moved, a little more purposeful, a little more alert, though still careful not to show it. Marta caught my eye across the yard and gave the smallest nod, the kind of nod you might miss if you were not looking for it. That night, a young boy, Marta's grandson, threw a small stone through the window of an old equipment shed near the edge of the colony. It was not a large act. It made a small noise, nothing more. But it was enough to pull 6 guards away from their usual posts, sent to investigate a child's mischief that turned out to be nothing at all. While they were busy chasing shadows near the shed, the area near the signal tower stood almost empty. I climbed that tower with tools I had gathered slowly over 2 days, hidden under crates in the processing building where nobody thought to look. My hands shook the entire time, and I will not pretend otherwise. I am not a soldier. I am not someone who was trained for this kind of thing. I was simply a woman with a notebook full of numbers in her head, climbing toward a small gap in a signal, hoping that everything I had counted was correct. When I reached the control panel, I waited for the short pause I had noticed, that brief moment when the tower's signal reset itself. When it came, I used the tools to break the connection, cutting the link between the tower and every band in the colony, all at once. I do not know exactly how long the break lasted. It felt like both a single breath and an entire lifetime. But for those few minutes, every person wearing a band on Kepler's Reach felt something lift from their body, the invisible hand that had been guiding their movements suddenly gone. I wish I could tell you that what happened next was full of daring rescues and clever tricks that felt like something out of an old adventure story. In truth, it was mostly quiet and fast. People who had spent 3 days memorizing guard patterns, storage locations, and escape paths moved calmly and quickly toward the places they had already planned to go. Storage doors were opened, supplies were gathered. Families who had been separated during work assignments found each other in the dark and held on tightly. Vehicles that had been used for farming were driven, not toward danger, but away from it, carrying as many people as they could hold toward the far side of the colony, where old tunnels from mining days still ran beneath the hills. Nobody I knew personally set out to cause harm to anyone that night. Our goal, as far as I understood it, and as far as I was part of it, was simple. Get free, get away, get somewhere the Tholari could not easily follow. The tunnels had been forgotten by the invaders, if they had ever known about them at all, since they were old and unused, long before the ships arrived. By the time the sun rose, thousands of us were gathered underground, tired, frightened, but no longer wearing bands that controlled our bodies. We sent a message from an old radio system buried deep in those tunnels, one that had not been used in years, but still worked when Marta's steady hands coaxed it back to life. We did not know, at the time, how far that message would travel. We only knew we wanted other worlds to hear what had happened here, in case it could help someone else avoid the same fate, or find the same kind of quiet courage we had found in each other. I learned much later that our message reached far beyond anything we imagined, spreading to other worlds that had also been taken by the Tholari, giving them, perhaps, a little of the same hope that Amara's strange words about fishing had given me. I do not know if I would call what we did a rebellion, not in the way the word is usually used. We broke no laws we believed were fair. We simply refused to remain something we were never meant to be. Even now, when I think back on those 3 days, I do not remember grand speeches or moments of obvious bravery. I remember small things instead. A cup of tea breaking on a kitchen floor, a child's stone through a window, numbers whispered under an old teacher's breath, a woman talking about fishing where there was no water at all, and I remember holding my daughter's hand the entire time, refusing, no matter what came, to let it go. That, I have come to believe, is what true courage often looks like. Not something loud or dramatic, but something quiet, patient, and shared among people who simply decide, together, that they will not stop being who they are.